Production funding for Behind the Headlines is made possible in part by
Yuletide Office Solutions, locally owned and family operated, offering office supplies and furniture, office design services, school supplies, and more. The Yuletide team proudly supports the Bartlett Area Chamber of Commerce and WKNO.
the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Immigration and education in Memphis, tonight on Behind the Headlines. I'm Eric Barnes, publisher of the Memphis Daily News. Thanks for joining us. I'm joined tonight by John Smorelli, president of CBU. Thanks for being here.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Along with Casey Bryant, managing attorney with Latino Memphis. Thanks for being here. And Bill Dries, senior reporter with the Memphis Daily News. Immigration, obviously a huge topic. It has been for years. It's a big national conversation. Lots of things, lots of strong things. Some would say some ugly things being said. But I want to start with some things related to education going on in Memphis. And we'll broaden out to other issues about immigration in Memphis nationally and so on. But let's just start with, you've had a couple of really interesting programs going on. And you were honored by the White House for some of the initiatives at CBU for children of immigrants. Talk about those initiatives and we'll get deeper into it.
Eric, this is a story that began with an individual, basically an individual. I got a call from a member of the community and who said very simply, we've got a student who cannot afford to go to college. The student is very, very capable of succeeding in college. Can you find a way to make college affordable for this individual? As we looked into the case, it was a situation where this individual was an undocumented Latina student who had graduated from high school and just really wanted to succeed in college. And so as I continued looking at this student, and then I asked my enrollment management director, Dr. Ann Kenworthy, who's been a partner in this whole project with me, you know, are there others in this pipeline? We found just an enormous number of individuals like her in the Memphis community who are just looking to succeed in college and are willing to pay for some of that college education. But how do we make college affordable? And that's really the way our program began at CBU, and we're very, very proud of the way it continues to move forward and to grow. Because
you're getting, correct me if I'm wrong, private money to help cover this, is that correct?
Correct. What we're trying to do is make our CBU education affordable by offsetting the HOPE and the Pell Scholarship that many of the undocumented students could no longer, would not qualify for. So that was the private money that paid for that. And as we traditionally do at our university, we discount the tuition tremendously. So it's sort of a partnership between a private foundation, an opportunity for us to bring these students to our university and to discount tuition so that CBU education is affordable.
So Latino Memphis works with schools and kids, undocumented kids, sometimes called dreamer kids, am I right about that? That kids who have been brought here, undocumented, came when they were kids. Talk about some of the initiatives that Latino Memphis has going on to help those kids in terms of high school and college.
Well, Latino Memphis has several different programs to help families on a broad range of issues, and a family is sort of a continuum of issues and needs. So we start with families who just maybe are new to Memphis, who need different kinds of services, access to benefits and things like that they really don't understand how to access. From there, I run a legal program at Latino Memphis called Derechos Immigration Program, where I help families at all stages of being undocumented or sort of documented, and help them with their immigration issues and to attain some kind of legal status. So in my program, I help people like these students get DACA, which is Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. And so, as you said, they have people that are eligible for this status are referred to as dreamers, and that kind of harkens back to the DREAM Act that didn't actually pass, and instead President Obama issued was it Obama?
Yeah, it was an executive action.
An executive action in to allow these dreamers to have some kind of status. It's actually not legal status. It just gives them work authorization, but it allows them to get federal government ID, which gives them a little bit more
but
stability.
not student, again, not eligible for a Pell Grant, not eligible for any kind of federal.
They have no legal status in the United States.
Right. What is I'll get Billy here in a second. What is, I don't know if either of you, the tuition equality bill that almost passed last year in the Tennessee state, this Tennessee legislature, I think it was one short in the House, that would give them Hope Scholarships. Is that correct? Access to at least the state level funding.
I thought the issue was more in-state tuition.
In-state tuition, excuse me. You're right. You are right. I'm sorry. I said that wrong. I said that wrong.
Yeah. So that would be the opportunity to get in-state tuition, so they could go to a public college or university and pay the same tuition as a quote-unquote citizen.
And that's because as an undocumented person, they're considered not just out-of-state, but international students, which is
which would be out-of-state.
It's more than out-of-state tuition.
I got you. Okay. Okay.
And so I just wanted to add another program that we have at Latino Memphis is the Abriendo Puertas program, which works with high school students to get into college. And a lot of our students have gone to CBU and the University of Memphis and Rhodes. And so we've helped build them up to a place where they can actually matriculate into school and then succeed in college once they.
And I had some statistics here that in the United States, 20% of Latinos have attained post-secondary training of some sort of college, community college or something. In Tennessee, it's 14%, and given that they're 18% of the population, so that there's this huge gap in secondary education. Your program has tripled the number of people participating in the high school program, and I think I saw a thing on your website that some 100% or a really high percentage of the people who participate in that program go on to secondary. So they just need the help to kind of get
exactly
there.
And a lot of these students have parents who maybe are undocumented, like definitely haven't gone to college, don't really know how to encourage them to take the ACT or to fill out the FAFSA or anything like that. So they just don't have the experience that they need to be able to support their children. So we help the parents to get some of that knowledge. We help the students and support them in moving through that process.
Bill.
In the political environment that we live in currently, I think there are a lot of people who are going to hear the term undocumented and make some assumptions about what that means. So Casey, tell us what that means.
Well, basically, an undocumented person is someone who either entered the United States without permission, or they did come with a visa, but their visa has expired and they currently have no legal status. And no legal status just means that you are in the United States without permission.
Okay.
You're not able to work, access any kind of public benefits. You're not legally authorized to work. You cannot access public benefits. You're not going to be on the Affordable Care Act. You're subject to be detained by immigration at any point.
Mm-hmm. Sure. John, in the case of the program at Christian Brothers University, this is not someone who just showed up on your doorstep. This is someone a young person who lived here, was and still is a part of this community. So obviously Christian Brothers University sees a value in this person just like anyone else who is a part of this community.
Yeah, our founder, Jean-Baptiste de La Salle, our mission is reaching out to where students are. Where are they? And at times they're disadvantaged, so we need to find ways to have them overcome the hump of being disadvantaged to go to be able to succeed in an educational environment. That really is what we're all about with this particular program. Take the individual who got to see President Obama at the White House, Frankie, born in Honduras, came here when he was 3. So he's 3 years old, he comes to this country with his mother. So he's a child, comes to California, comes various locations, actually lives out of his car for a period of time because they couldn't afford housing. And he's one of 6 children, 3 born in Honduras, 3 born in the United States. So the 3 born in the United States are fine. They come to school and they're not dreamers. They're legitimate citizens. It's those 3, his first 3 in his family who are considered undocumented. And so the issue is for me a very personal one. How do we provide an education for him? And the other thing that happens when we provide an education for him is these individuals who come to college go back to their high schools. And as Casey was saying before, no longer is it is going to college a mystical experience, or it's an opportunity. So they go back to their high schools and say, you know, you can do this, you can do this, you can be a college student. So we've got this Whole Lot CBU program, 75 of our Latino students who go back to their high schools and give back how to do the ACT, how to do a FAFSA, how to apply to college, and really whether to go to CBU or U of M or Rhodes or Southwest, it's all positive for us.
What about the person who's listening, or maybe isn't listening, but certainly they're the people who think this, who say, look, that person's an illegal alien, and they don't have a place here, not at CBU, not in Memphis, not in the country. That they are not supposed to be here, and that's the law. What do you say to them?
We have a generation of children, and it's really about those children. Are we going to just ignore those children, and then what will happen next? Crime. What will happen next? They'll be dependent on the government, gangs, other things. For me, this is an opportunity to take this generation and not lose this generation, but to provide this generation an opportunity to succeed in the workforce. And clearly the workforce is what this community needs. We need more college-trained individuals. This is an amazing population of where we can create college-trained individuals ready to become strong citizens in this community. And it's a growing population. You know, we're looking at over a 10-year period now, probably a 300% growth in the Latino population in Tennessee,
yeah.
Mainly in West Tennessee, so mainly in the Memphis community. So this is a population where we've got to get the cycle of education into this culture sooner rather than later, because if we don't do that, we're going to be in trouble.
And that's a really simplistic view of what a real family looks like, who is a family.
What I said.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so you know, you say yes, they're here illegally. They don't have any status, but they're mixed families. They're mixed status families. So you have the parents who maybe don't have any status. Three of the 6 siblings are U.S. citizens. What do you do with those U.S. citizens who have a right to be in the United States? And do the parents have to leave their children here? I see these situations all the time. Half of the family is here legally, half of them are not. One of them is a new arrival, which has a completely different set of circumstances to deal with in terms of immigration laws.
What just some basic, in the Memphis area, West Tennessee, however you want to quantify it, the number of undocumented workers is roughly, or undocumented immigrants is roughly?
I'm terrible with numbers. I have no clue. A lot.
Yeah,
I mean,
a lot.
Yeah,
it's fine. No, that's fine.
In a year, my program saw 300 people.
Okay.
And that's 300 people who need help with their immigration issues that came to Latino Memphis, which is just a small fraction of the number of people that are here.
Yeah, okay. Bill.
And from what you've said, this is not a case of someone being undocumented and that is the only situation that's going on. These are families, as you said, with a number of statuses across the family.
Exactly. That's the whole thing. The opportunity for them to work, however, is very important for our particular program, Bill and Eric. The thing that we do with our students is we say, you need to have a skin in the game. And so what we've done with our students is, if they need it, they take out a small loan and they begin to pay back that small loan immediately. So they're working adults, and we want them to take a CBU education, private school education, and value that because they were involved in paying for that education.
It's a loan through CBU.
A loan through CBU. And our goal really is, when they begin to pay the loan back, $50 a month or whatever they're paying back right now, we want to be able to pay it forward to upcoming students. So for us, it's an opportunity to look forward into a perpetuating program where we develop a culture of education for these individuals. And that's really what we're all about.
And it really is important I think, to acknowledge that people are here, that they can work, that they can input to the economy, that they already are. And there's no feasible way to eliminate that.
Yeah.
I mean, there may be a way to stave it off in the future, but at this point, millions of people are in the United States. They are working, they are contributing, so why not acknowledge their contribution?
Right. Bill?
Is there, because of that work status, is there also an element that I think a lot of people don't see, because there is a rather simplistic image at times that this person just came here and there are no employers who are involved in this situation, but there are employers, sure, of course. There are some industries that are incredibly dependent on undocumented workers, starting out in that status.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a strong history of employers bringing people to the United States to work. There were immigration programs 50 years ago that the Bracero program was established to bring people here to work. Our economy is based on immigrant workforce.
Yeah. If you're a construction worker, I don't know if that's, I mean, it's a negative stereotype, but it's a stereotypical, it's a very common profession, undocumented workers or agriculture and so on. I have a couple of dumb questions, okay? Do you pay taxes? Are you taxed? Are you paying? Because that's one of the big criticisms people say. These people are here, they're working, but they're not paying taxes. They're not contributing. Is somebody paying taxes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to bring up one thing. Like, yes, maybe you say it's a stereotype, but actually, it's labor. It's labor that people can do that maybe are unskilled or uneducated in a way that other career fields require. So it's not necessarily a stereotype. It's just where people are able to get to work.
Thank you.
People do file taxes. They, maybe they are paid in cash. They get paycheck every week, and their taxes are not taken out. But at the end of the year, they do file. They file because they have U.S. citizen children. They file because they need to have a record of their income. They are paying taxes. They are filing taxes. You can get, if you don't have a Social Security number, you can get an I-10 that's a, what is it called? It's a tax identification number. It doesn't give you legal status in the United States. All it does is allow the IRS to identify you as a person that keeps filing every year. So people are paying in.
It's fascinating because I mean that's what you hear people on various news programs screaming about. They don't pay taxes.
They pay taxes and they get nothing back. Okay. They get no public benefits. They don't get Medicaid.
Right.
Nothing. They don't get unemployment. They can't sue their employer if they're afraid to sue their employer if they get injured on the job.
Yeah. Okay. You were going to say something.
No, I'm good. I think Casey's done a great job here. But again, that's the reason why in our case I go back to the same point that they're paying for their loan a small amount because we feel very strongly that they got to be a participant in this whole process.
Well, here's another dumb question. Okay, and I apologize, but it's just because you hear so many really vociferous and angry and assertive things said on one side of this whole immigration discussion. Is there a legal issue with you making a loan with an undocumented, with someone who's here, quote, illegally? I mean, did your board of trustees, did your staff attorney go, hey, wait, let's make sure we're doing this correctly because we're dealing with someone who is, like it or not here legally? So how do you go through that process as a school?
But they are out there working in a job, and that's, if they're working at Starbucks, I mean, it's a comparable analogy. They're working at Starbucks. They're paying taxes. So there's, I mean, we had to go through board approval and And,
did you have any pushback from your board internally?
No, not at all. Because it's mission driven. For us, it's a mission driven endeavor. It's an opportunity for us to reach this population of young individuals we believe will make a difference to this community. And really, that became the overriding force. Are there issues there? Of course there are issues. Are there problems? Of course there are. But the bottom line is this is the mission of our university, a mission that we need to at times go out there on a limb a little bit at times, and that's what we do.
You want to add something?
Well, I was just going to say the main issue for issuing loans is, aside from an emotional response about the illegality of someone in the United States, is identification documents. Yeah. So if you don't have a U.S. ID, then it's hard to identify who that person is to give them a loan. Right. That's the problem with loans. It's not a problem with their status.
I got you. You talked about your mission. I want to read a quote from, we'll come back to your mission. A quote from Ron Ramsey, who's the state
lieutenant governor.
The lieutenant governor, leader of the state senate, said, and this was in response to, at this point, it'll be some weeks ago, Donald Trump's comments about banning all Muslims from entering the country. Ron Ramsey said, while I would not favor an explicitly religious test, I do think it's time to place a moratorium on immigration from a long list of countries with ties to terrorism. When you look at those kind of statements, and the ones Donald Trump has made, and lots of different people have made, your mission, how does that square with your mission, or how does that not square with your mission to work with people? And if you walk around the CBU campus, it's an incredibly diverse place, incredibly diverse. There's no religious test, but you can tell it's a religiously diverse, it's an ethnically diverse. How did this sort of xenophobic kind of impulses, what's your response to it?
It's a little bit frightening when we're making judgments based on what church you attend or what synagogue or what mosque you attend. To me, that's frightening because, again, at our university, we're over 30% African American. We're 42% Pell Grant recipients, nearly 50% minority students. And you know, we're a Catholic LaSallian University. We're proud of our Catholicity, but in fact, the majority of our students are not Catholic. I mean, only 22% of our students are Catholic. And so we welcome all religious backgrounds and we welcome individuals to grow in their own faith traditions, whatever they may be. So we can't put a litmus test on religion in terms of succeeding at our university. In fact, what they add to our university in many regards is an opportunity for others to see different religious backgrounds and not to fear it anymore. Because I think the best thing about young people is they will form communities. When they form communities, they learn from each other. And that's what the Latino students, for example, have done to our community is they've taught our students, the traditional students, how to cook, some of the dances, some of the social activities, and have become real part of the community. So our non-Latino students have learned from our Latino students and vice versa.
For you, for Latino Memphis, obviously focused on Hispanic immigration and so on, but does this what someone called a xenophobic kind of response to Muslims right now and tightening of immigration and so on, does that bleed over and hurt your cause? Even though no one's talking about Hispanic terrorists, but does just that sort of whole attitude hurt what you try to do in terms of immigration reform and so on?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, the idea of tightening borders anywhere and creating more barriers for people being able to come to the United States. A lot of the people I see are asylee seekers, which are you have to conform to the definition of refugee before you can seek asylum, and it's just a little bit of different nuance. But changing those requirements changes it for everybody, not just, I mean, like a law could be based towards Syria and the countries around that area, but the ideas and the mentality spread out and they spread across. And immigration policy and immigration law right now is so fragmented and unevenly applied. It's a danger for everybody.
Bill.
So given that fragmentation in the law, which politically usually results when you have a series of changes that are made and then things are added on to them and things are added on to them, where is the biggest divide or the biggest conflict in what one law says about this and what another law says about this, or what another law allows in terms of immigration?
I mean, I can just give you a very simple example. We'll just talk about DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals that we were talking about earlier. There's a cutoff date that if you arrived before June 15th, 2007, after June 15th, 2007, you do not get DACA. And if you came the day before, you do get DACA. And you were 15 years old when you arrived, you do get DACA. And so the uneven application, just for something like this, is that when a law or an executive order gets into place, they set limitations on it, and they're arbitrary. So, my sister could get it and I couldn't. Something as simple as that. It's just kind of arbitrary.
So is the solution then for Congress to go in and try to overhaul everything that's on the books and try to apply some consistency to it? And if so, what's the likelihood that that's going to happen?
Well, I live in a dream world about what I would like to have happen, and really I think it's about applying the like we have an idea of policies, we have an idea of due process, we have an idea of what's fair and who deserves and whatever, but then in the application it's just totally different. I think that it just needs to be scrapped and start all over. I think that's impossible. I think that people are, when I listen to candidates talk, they are completely ignorant of immigration laws. And they say, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and actually it's already been done. It's all already been done. So I don't think it's going to happen. I think it absolutely needs to happen. And
there's some news that the number of kids coming across alone is rising again through the winter. I guess it was last year, the huge number that came through. But in Memphis or West Tennessee, where do Hispanic immigrants come from? I mean, a lot of times people talk about Mexican. That's a negative stereotype. You know, there's all these Mexicans, and that's not true. I mean, it's all of South America. Where do they come from?
I mean, the clients I see are all from almost exclusively from Central America. So that does include Mexico, but it also includes Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and I would say those. It's some kind of triangle. It's called the triangle or something.
Yeah.
And mostly that's where they come from. We have a random smattering from South America, but really Central America, and that's where these are the most dangerous countries in the whole world.
Yeah. Let me shift gears on you a little bit. There's a lot going on at CBU. I think you're in a big capital expansion.
Campaign, yes, exactly.
Talk about some of the changes and everything that's happened at CBU right now.
I think this program actually fits beautifully with the changes because it's all about partnerships. Really what we've tried to do is, I think the other universities in our area are doing a very, very similar job. We like just the way we do it better a little bit, but in many regards, it's about partnerships. What's the workforce needs of this community? What are the educational needs of this community? And how do we as a university, with all of our resources, all of our great faculty, make a difference to this particular community? So we're in the midst of a capital campaign. That campaign is mostly about the community in which we live. For example, what we're doing with schools, what we're trying to do is the Fairview School, creating the Maxine Smith Academy, across the street with Millard College High School, other opportunities for dual enrollment. We're trying to reach out to this community. What we're trying to do is essentially do it in multiple parts. We want to create students who are able to succeed at college. Once they get to our college, hopefully they come to CBU. But once they go to college, we want to then create a pipeline for them to get jobs. So opportunities for internships, opportunities for partnerships with FedEx and IP and some of the other industries in the area. Basically the continuum that we're trying to create all through partnerships. And really this is a partnership with Latino Memphis, a very similar partnership.
All right, John Smorelli, President, thank you for being here. Casey Bryant, thank you for being here. Bill Drees, thanks. Thank you for joining us. Join us again next week.
Yuletide Office Solutions, locally owned and family operated, offering office supplies and furniture, office design services, school supplies, and more. The Yuletide team proudly supports the Bartlett Area Chamber of Commerce and WKNO.